I can do things at WED without asking anybody, even my wife.
Coney Island, world's biggest barrel of
And
fun.
anywhere else your imagination takes you.
Okay, we've done that now.
To get the whole show now, you hurry.
Anything's possible at Disneyland.
Welcome aboard the Themed Attraction Podcast, where we take you for a ride through the wonderful world of theme park design, that is. You just set sail on a voyage to discover the who, what, why, and how they did it via in-depth discussions with theme park industry masters of the craft. I'm your skipper, Freddy Martin, and with me, as always, is theme park designer, master planner, and spatial storyteller from Storyland Studios, Mel McGowan. Where's the compass taking us today, Mel?
Well, Fred, today our journey is truly a global one as we get to catch up with my good buddy and also the president of Zeitgeist Design Production, none other than Ryan Harmon. Ryan cut his teeth working alongside such theme park legends as Tony Baxter and our friend Tom Morris. He's won multiple Thea Awards and now leads his own team of creatives who dream up unique and groundbreaking experiences for parks in China, South Korea, Indonesia, Viet Nam, Dubai, and Nigeria. Ryan's part of the current generation of themed entertainment creatives who are taking the show on the road. We've actually had a chance to enjoy several collaborations with our team at Storyland Studios, and we always have fun in his sandbox.
Well, you know me, I love to travel, so I can't wait to see what happens as we go around the world with Ryan Harmon. Okay, folks, keep your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the boat, because this episode is about to leave the dock. Hit it, Sam. Well, Mel, I have to admit, I have a pretty narrow view of what theme parks are like in other parts of the world because I've never been to a theme park outside of the United States. I kind of think from everything I've seen that I'm missing out.
You might be right there, buddy.
So you've been to a lot of them, and you've taken part in the design of some of them.
There's only so many theme parks along the jungle rivers of the world.
I know, right? That's true. There's only a few stops on the jungle river. That's right. So here's our opening question. What do you think is the greatest challenge exporting themed entertainment stuff, parks and all that to cultures around the world?
Well, there was enough challenges associated with the first generation, I think, of basically exporting America, and American stories and IPs. And when you go to Disneyland Paris, it literally is a little chunk of Orlando, drop kicked into the beat fields of Paris or Tokyo or whatever. But I think the real challenges for the next generation is kind of making the stories their own, making them soil specific and relatable and celebrating, distilling the unique special sauce of each individual people in place. So can't wait to see where that goes in the future myself. Yeah,
and I know you've been working on some projects with them in a variety of different places. Some of them are secret, some of them are out there. But really, I mean, it's exciting to see that in our world, cultures that didn't have access to a lot of different kinds of entertainment. You think about some of the stuff in Middle East are now just embracing and soaking up all of this really great technology and storytelling and giving people leisure time, which is something we in the 20th century America really took a hold of and soaked up. But now we get to see the rest of the world doing that, and they're doing it at a high pace. It's really growing fast.
Yeah, sometimes it's quantity over quality, but we'll see.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. Well, this is exactly the type of challenge that Ryan Harmon faces all the time. So let's dive in. Here's our globe-trotting interview with creative director, writer, and president of Zeitgeist Design and Production, Ryan Harmon.
Well, such a awesome morning here, and what a great time and a great space to be in. Ryan, we're excited to finally get you in your beautiful home here. You got to tell us a little bit. I feel like I'm at the Tam O'Shanter. I'm like in this amazing time machine. Where are we?
Yeah, we are in Altadena, California. We are up towards the foothills, and we are in a 1925 French country home. that I
I
purchased
feel like
about 11
Russell
years
Crowe
ago.
in Province.
Oh, yes, yes,
one of my
yes.
favorite
Yes, and
Ridley
it's-
Scott movies.
It's decorated with a number of items that I purchased from a Knott's Berry Farm auction last year, which has a lot of history before it even found its way to Knott's, and then obviously spent decades at Knott's on display. So we've got carousel horse. We have a grandfather clock that was imported from the Netherlands from 1740. We have an arcade weight machine. We've got an old 1920s radio, all kinds of fun stuff.
The exposed timbers and everything give it a sense of space that you don't expect just stepping in off the street.
Right, very charming.
Yeah, very charming.
Well, I'm also blown away by so many of our crossing of the stream shared interests. We got a lot of the same coffee
That's why
table
we're friends,
books. We
Mel.
got the same tiki mugs from Trader Sam's. Yeah, we definitely are friends, and a lot of mutual friends go back. We've got some collaborations we'll get to talk about. But I remember the first time I met you because I was a little bit of a fanboy stalker because I remember when I was still in film school back in the 80s reading one of your Disney news articles. And I think you were probably, there we go, like one of the classic blast from the past, grandfather clocks. But I remember that you were one of the youngest Disney Imagineers, if not the youngest Disney Imagineer.
I was so honored and lucky that I dreamed of being a Disney Imagineer since I was probably in third grade when I first learned about it. And I remember literally doing all my book reports on Walt Disney biographies as a very young child. And starting college at Cal State University Northridge and majoring in film also. And being a writer ever since third grade also. I had been winning all the poetry and, story contests and everything. And one of my teachers at Cal State Northridge, an acting teacher, actually offered me an internship at a TV production company. And I took the job working for free, once a week. He got let go, and another woman came in and noticed I was kind of bored and said, "What else do you want to do?" And I said, I'd love to work for Disney. I just love everything about it. When I was a kid, I would run into the preview center and look at the models of Discovery Bay. And it's just something I've dreamed of. And even also as a kid in my neighborhood, I would put on shows for the neighborhood kids in the garage and create arcades for my two brothers. And I've just always created experiences. It's very strange. And by the way, Walt and I have never stood on the planet at the same time. He died 2 months before I was born.
Wow.
So anyway, she introduced me to a gentleman named George Head, who had been at Disney probably since late Walt Disney World, early Epcot days. And George invited me to Imagineering.
I was just with George last week
really?
in Orlando.
Yep. George invited me to Imagineering for lunch, and he was too busy to have lunch, but he gave me a tour. And there was the Epcot model in all its glory in a massive warehouse with every tree and all the buildings.
This is just a few years after opening then.
This was 87, yes,
Okay.
5 years after opening. And I knew it was like coming home. Like I'm getting chills talking about it. Like I was going, wow, this is where I belong. This is what I was meant to be. And
where did you say you grew up?
in Chatsworth, in the Valley. So George offered me the opportunity to be his assistant for a summer. And I quit. I was working at an insurance company in Northridge. I quit my job and drove 20 miles every day. I was there on time every day. And at that time, it was still a lot of the original Imagineers walking the halls. I mean, Claude Coates was still sitting in his office. I would go sit with him, Herb Ryman, Sam McKim, John Hench, obviously Marty Sklar. So I had an opportunity to sit and learn from these people and hear the stories about Walt and see them open the drawer and pull out the big rock candy mountain ride that never got built. And get to meet with the second gen Imagineers who were Bob Weiss and Tony Baxter and those gentlemen. And for all intents and purposes, I was considered the first of the third generation. I was 20 years old when I started and could not drink at the patio parties and was just thrown into this world where I was being flown first class to Orlando, and you could borrow a car and drive it to Disneyland. I was walking through Pirates of the Caribbean with the water drained and going backstage at the Haunted Mansion. And, this was just a few years after I had gone to Disney World for the first time. And so it was just so strange to be that young and thrown into this world where I was very well accepted and I think prospered quite a bit just using the creativity I had developed since I was a child. Yeah. So, yes, that was a long way to answer your question. Yeah, it was amazing. And I've never looked back. It's just something I was seriously born to do, and I love it.
Well, George has gone on to have quite a legacy with starting the program at Savannah College of Art and Design, and what a mentor to so many.
Yeah, George is truly one of the nicest people I've ever met.
That's awesome.
Just a wonderful guy.
So, how about that journey? Through Imagineering, how long were you there, and what were some of your favorite
I was there
contributions?
Yeah, I was there. I started in June of '87, and I didn't graduate college for 3 more years. So they allowed me to work full-time during summers and vacations and part-time during school days. So I would get to school at 7:30, get out of there by 11, run into the office, grab lunch, and work till 6 o'clock. And I was given the opportunity at first to be a show designer on the Disney MGM studios. So I was the assistant on that project to the whole team. Bob Weiss was leading that. We had Tom Fitzgerald, Richard Vaughn, a number of amazingly talented people. So I got to edit videos and put presentations together, and we still had slides back then. So I would put slideshows together and really learn not only the art of...
Kirks were still involved back then?
What's that?
The Kirks?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Tim Kirk was there, and Steve Kirk, and Kathy Kirk was actually my boss at the beginning. So I learned presentation skills. I learned the design process, and got to actually go out on site during construction. And they brought me into what they called company relations for a while, which was kind of PR marketing. So I would write bios on all the lead people that would go to the press. I would write press releases. And that's how I got into writing for Disney Magazine. Right. And we started a magazine in-house called the WDIEYE. Yep. So I was one of the founding editors or writers on that too. So if you find any of those old
and for kids
issues
today to understand pre-internet,
right?
Yeah. This was it, man. This was the only way that you had a glimpse under the hood.
Right. Disney Magazine was the only official publication.
Right.
And literally I wrote to the editor, said I think I was already at WDI. Maybe it was even before, but I think it was when I started, and said, "Hey, I'm a writer." I just branded myself a writer. And she said, show me some samples, and I did. And next thing you know, I was writing cover stories on the opening of California Adventure, and I did a cover story on The Lion King, and I got to go across the street and interview all the animators, Don Hahn, and I forgot some of the other guys, but it was just an incredible opportunity to also do that PR side as well. But I kept pushing to really get into the creative. And so they ultimately put me into the show writing department. And I worked on a project called Plek2's Fantastic Galactic Review, which was a reimagining of the Carousel Theater at Tomorrowland, where literally I got to pitch my show to Michael Jackson. And I will never forget, they had us watch all these videos, and we saw how people screamed and cried like the Beatles when they met him, and he walks in with his glove and his sunglasses. And I was just, I literally did not know who I was, where I was. I was standing up there in front of, these guys gave me this opportunity to present. Rick Rothschild and Chris Runco were heading that up, and I begged to be able to present. And I thought I just completely messed it up by saying absolutely nothing for an hour. But it was probably a half a second, right?
Were words coming out of your mouth?
I did it. But I got to oversee a rocking robots. The theater would turn, and we designed each scene just like America Sings. So I had a rock band called, what are they called, Supernova, and I actually wrote a song and all the lyrics that they would perform.
I noticed
it was
we're
amazing.
Both guitar players. I've seen a couple of guitars.
So it was like a Scorpion song. It was called Rock You Like a Supernova.
Nice.
Right after Rock You Like a Hurricane.
That's great.
But even today, the lyrics, I still look at it going, wow, it was pretty good back then. But that never happened, unfortunately. The cost estimate came back too high for an existing facility.
One of those great Tomorrowland 2055.
Yeah, exactly. So I was there for all of that. What else did I work on? Water park concepts, all kinds of things that sadly most of them never happened. I think in my 5 years originally there, the only thing I did that got installed were plaques that I wrote for the Disney Gallery.
Oh, really?
Because I used to work a lot with Van Romans, who was in charge of the art
that's
program
right.
there. So, but what it was for me was a microcosm of the industry where I was there, and at the time there was no such thing as security badges in locked areas. So once you were in, you had the opportunity to go sit with anybody and talk to anybody.
Yeah.
So I fully took advantage of that, just being a sponge at that age, and any chance you have to just meet and speak with people. These were gods to me. I don't care about rock stars or movie stars, but people like Sam McKim, who drew all the maps and designed all these rides, and Mark Davis was walking around. And I mean, these were my rock stars. These were my gods. So to talk with them, ask them stories, get them to autograph things, that's what I did. And ultimately that got me a little in trouble because as a member of the writing division, people as producers would call and say, hey, I need a writer on this project. And I had befriended quite a few people. And the story I heard was that a lot of people would call and request me. And my manager didn't like that because he had to fill the spaces with other people. To me, that's success.
Right, exactly.
To him,
building
I
relationships.
I was disturbing the process or whatnot. And that apparently led to him letting me go in May of 1992, right as Paris was opening. They had a major layoff.
Wow.
And even though I had been like the biggest cheerleader of the place and got involved in the history and the magazines and producing historical events and working on projects and getting to know everybody, they walked me out.
Wow.
And that was the saddest day of my life, even to this day. And that I will always hold that one man responsible for that shift in my career.
Yeah.
Because I would have loved to have stayed there for decades and grown with the company and taken my enthusiasm and everything I love about Disney and gone on to do great things.
Okay, so that makes for a good transition. Just because out of the ashes comes something new.
Correct.
And so without that, unfortunately, you went on to make it your life. To build and creative direct so many different things.
Creatively lead projects that actually are getting done and built. Probably have a few less layers of management review and political ups and downs.
Well, it was shocking, right? When I left, I really had no idea because you're so insulated at Disney. You don't know there's actually an industry. And there wasn't much of one. We're talking 92. Yeah. So the only game in town was really Landmark Entertainment Group, which was in North Hollywood, led by Gary Goddard and Tony Christopher. And so I reached out to them and immediately began working with them. I also met a gentleman named Phil Hedema, who was working with another amazing talent named Dale Mason. And they were also in North Hollywood, right across the street from Landmark, developing something that became a little park called Islands of Adventure. So I had an amazing opportunity to work with those two on what was then called Toon Lagoon. And we developed a whole Warner Brothers Looney Tunes land that had the most amazing attractions that no one's ever seen. Right. So someday they should put that artwork and those concepts out. And then I met another gentleman named Craig Hanna. And Craig was working at a company in Marina Del Rey called Kevin Biles Design. And he literally found me, I forgot how, and there was a photo of me in Disney News, and I had long rocker hair back then, and I was wearing my Tomorrowland 2055 coat, because I did a story on it with my friend David Mumford, who passed away a number of years ago. And so David and I were pictured in there. And Craig said to me, "Are you the dorky looking one or the one with long hair?"
Oh, thanks for the confidence.
So Craig and I met and we hit it off, and we worked together for almost a decade at Kevin Biles, then at Jack Morton, and then he went in-house at Universal and brought me over there. So I was pretty busy. It was a real rarity, apparently, to be an Imagineer out on the street in that era, especially somebody who came from the creative development and writing division, because there was really, I think, only one other person got let go from our group. And so I was working nonstop, and I tripled what I was earning literally within a week or two from getting let go.
So you're going to go back and thank the guy that let you
but I still love Disney.
Right.
So, and luckily I did have a chance about 2009 to finally get back in there, and had a chance to develop a number of new attractions for the R&D group, and then got put in charge of a land on Shanghai Disneyland, and spent about a year or more working on a bunch of projects. And then just a month ago, I was there for a couple months developing some new stuff.
Yeah.
So
and you've been able to get back over to Shanghai and experience.
Yeah, I've been to Shanghai
the fruit
twice.
of some of those efforts. And
yes.
what's your, just as a, I just gotta switch gears, just
Yeah.
as a pure Disney fan,
Right.
What a compare contrast. The Walt's little magical little park
Right.
in Orange Groves, for Daddy and his daughters,
Yeah.
compared to just anything in mainland China, but particularly Shanghai. What's your executive summary, compare contrast of those two parks?
Well, they're
Disneyland and Shanghai.
totally different types of experiences, built for totally different audiences and in totally different eras. So while I will always believe Disneyland is
Authentically Chinese, but distinctly
right,
Disney.
exactly.
Still Disney?
Right. Well, it's true, but Disneyland, I often have arguments with friends who went to Florida first, and they say, oh, Disney World's so much better. It's got big castle. And I'm like, well, but Disneyland is charming. And it was the first time any of this had ever even been conceived. And why would you have this Victorian Main Street with this fairy tale castle at the end of it? It makes absolutely no sense, but it works. Yeah. And it was done by art directors, not by architects. Yeah. And so for me,
the castle is a strategic scale,
right?
Because
exactly.
It's that forced perspective that makes it look further away.
Yeah. So there's a different emotion, I think, when I go to Disneyland, knowing the history and just feeling the design, versus Disney World, and definitely versus Shanghai, which because I worked on it, I saw the evolution of it. And I think there's some amazing attractions there. The scale is massive. I don't necessarily agree with not having park-wide transportation. The two times I've been there, once it was probably 100 degrees and 100% humidity, and I would have done anything to get into an air-conditioned train, monorail, Skyway bucket, anything to get across that park. And the other time I was there, it was below freezing. And same thing, like, can I be inside? Why am I waiting in these outdoor queues? We went to see the nighttime show. We could not even stand outside and watch it.
Wow.
I thought my ears were going to break off. So,
cool.
So there's, I don't think that they built it in the way that we design a lot of our parks now, looking at how many people are expected to come on an annual basis. You have a certain amount of attractions, and that park seems to have 3 or 4 major attractions, while most of the other ones, at least that we do, might have 12 or a lot more. So I'm glad that they're looking to expand. I think they just opened the Toy Story Land. And I know they've got plans to do some other exciting things. So, hey, they're hugely successful, and it is a beautiful park. And that Pirates of the Caribbean ride is probably the best ride I've ever been on in my life. Thank you, Luke Mayran, for that, and Nancy Ceruto. But, yeah, just an amazing attraction. And Tron, obviously. And,
it almost does seem that it becomes Disney standard operating procedure now, regardless of the scale, whether it's a Shanghai Disneyland or a more of a half day, second gate to open kind of a bare bones minimum, 2 or 3 e-tickets, and then kind of, have that ability to do the CapEx reinvestment year after year to kind of keep the numbers going. Whereas a lot of the foreign parks we get to collaborate on, it's like they want that critical mass opening day, big splash to create the word of mouth.
Right.
But,
well, there's almost a science to it too. I mean, we work a lot with John McDonald and his team at Management Resources. And when we know we're getting 3 or 4 million a year, let's say, there's a formula for how many major attractions, e-tickets, D-tickets, C-tickets, food and beverage, retail, all that sort of thing. And I was just a little surprised when I went to Shanghai, and it seemed like there were 5-hour queues for the soaring ride.
Yeah, that's not exactly what we program into our spreadsheets.
No, so it's... and maybe there was an issue that one of the theaters was down or something. I don't really know, but there were long waits in hot or cold weather.
So it's been a few decades since the 80s, and you've had a chance to do some fun stuff. Anything that you're particularly proud of that you want to talk about? Or?
Yeah, I've been very lucky in my career to work with, again, some of the most amazing talent in our industry. The major players at most of the major design firms. I worked with Gary and Tony in their heyday. I worked with Bob Rogers. I worked with Craig Hanna, like I said, at multiple companies, with Phil Hedema and Dale Mason, with Jack Rouse. I forgot who I'm leaving out of here, but I've had a chance to really work closely with a lot of these people and their teams. And at some point, I was working on these great projects, and clients were coming to me and saying, hey, I know I hired this architecture firm, but in the meetings, it seems like you understand it more than they do. They're focused more on the facility, and you're telling me a story, and that's what I want. And that happened a number of times, and I started to think, well, maybe I can do this by myself, and put together my own team. And through the evolutionary process that emerged around 2010, well, I take that back. It started around the turn of the century where I joined with Brian Edwards from Edwards Technologies, and we formed a company called Story Department. And we had met, I had done the Hercules and Xena attraction. I know that dates me, at Universal Studios in Florida.
I remember that.
But I met Brian there, and Brian said, hey, we do AV and media, and a lot of companies are coming to us, but we don't do the show. We just kind of put the equipment together. So what if we partner? You do the show, we'll do the hardware, and it'll be a wonderful marriage. And so we formed Story Department, and we did a project at the Opry Mills Mall in Nashville. We did, I can't remember. We did a bunch of different media-based projects, which were all very successful. And before that, I did the Manatees: The Last Generation show for SeaWorld Orlando with Craig Hanna. And that was there for 19 years. It just closed when Turtle Trek opened. And it was voted the #1 attraction in Orlando in 1990 or 91 because Universal had opened. No, this had to be 93 or 94. But Universal had opened and none of the attractions worked. There was only one or two that was actually operational. So this article, I remember, poo-pooed what Universal had done and said, the best thing happening right now is this manatee show. And I think part of that, a lot of what my reputation is amongst some is that I bring emotion into a lot of attractions. And that attraction was about manatees and how they were getting hurt by speedboats in Orlando. And so I thought, what if we're in the water and up on the shore, we see a dad holding hands with a little girl. And she's like, Daddy, what's a manatee? And he tells her, and these things are swimming around, and it just goes from there. And it really touched people. And then they went out and they saw the real manatees. And I also did that I did the Titanic official movie tour with Lexington Scenery and 20th Century Fox. And I didn't want you to just go to the boat. Excuse me. So I started under the water in modern day, and you see the wreck of the Titanic under the sea, and you go through a big rip, a tear in its hull. And as you're going through this corridor, time goes backwards, and you walk out into the grand stairway, and you are back on the Titanic. And you go through all the different sets and costumes and interactives. And I wanted to end it again emotionally. So I put you on a, what are those boats called? The rescue boats.
Yeah, lifeboats.
Lifeboats. And I made a number of scrims, and I thought it'd be fun to do dimensional media where it's farther away and closer. And so we re-edited the finale of the film on multiple planes. And it was started with the sinking of the ship and Jack dying, and then a celebration looking back, a montage of Jack and Rose's romance. And then, of course, it ends with the song, Your Heart Will Go On, or whatever, and then you turn around, and there's the Heart of the Ocean diamond in a case with light. And Roberta Perry, one of my best buddies and industry icons, she cried. And it was her company that did all the AV. So I love that, because when I go see a good film, like let's say A Star Is Born recently or something, you feel a roller coaster of emotions. And you walk out of there going, wow, I laughed, I cried, I was angry. If it made you feel, that's a quality experience.
Yeah, that's right.
And we lose that a lot in themed entertainment, where it's very passive, or it's the same exact thing where something goes terribly wrong and we need you to volunteer and save the day. And it's just, that makes me yawn. I want something that's going to touch me, emotionally. And that's what I try to do. So, so to answer your question, yeah, there was the manatee attraction. We did the Opry Mills project. We did Cerritos Library here. I did all the interactives and media for that.
It's not your run-of-the-mill library.
No, it's the world's first experience library. Yeah. The Hercules and Xena show, which was really fun to work with the real actors. And we sent a team to New Zealand and shot our own episode. And we all probably forget that those were the 2 top shows in America at that time. So we were working with this very successful IP. And it's been fun also through my career. Not that it's anywhere near over, but I've had a chance to jump back and forth between completely original attractions and parks and IP based.
Yeah, right.
So I was in house at Warner Brothers after I left the KBD and Landmark world. I was director of show development and got to work on an entire park in Germany. So here I got the chance to conceive and write and develop. I did a Maverick stunt and magic show. I did a Gremlins ride where I was told I had to put Alf, the TV alien, into Gremlins ride. Don't ask me.
It's so confusing.
That was one of those times in my career where I'm like, it wasn't supposed to be this way.
How do you make somebody cry like that? Maybe just the concept.
I don't know. I did a Never-Ending Story raft ride.
Oh, wow.
I did a Looney Tunes attraction where I was told that I could not have any music. And I said, really? Have you heard of Carl Stalling?
Yeah.
Da, 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 da. How do you have a Looney Tunes attraction with no music? So I was told no. And when I went and wrote it, because I left the project before it was finished, all you heard were the pneumatics of the animatronics throughout the entire ride.
Oh,
so
It's bizarre.
they didn't put music. But yeah, I had a chance to do that. I worked on the Space Center Bremen project in Germany for BRC, which a lot of companies had the chance to work on.
Well, I think that was our actual mutual introduction was through Bruce Green.
Oh, yeah.
Who had been,
Yeah, Bruce worked with, he was the
yeah.
architect, and I was the creative director.
Yeah, and Bruce and I worked together for, at least 10 years or
Yeah,
so.
no, he's great.
One of my main architectural partners. And Robin Hall also worked with Bruce on a lot of Warner Brothers stuff. So just tons of great connections. We're actually excited. We were just talking earlier about an attraction that's getting ready to open up in December in LA-ish called the Poverty Encounter.
Right.
That Robin helped us out on.
Right.
Really excited to talk about that in future episodes. But so then the founding of Zeitgeist, what prompted that and what year was that?
So in 2010, I had an opportunity to do a part called Robot Land in Korea. And I formed a company called Delaney Harmon with my friend Tim Delaney, who I had known for 2 decades almost at that point. But really, we became close friends.
Mr. Tomorrowland.
Yes, we became good friends on the Shanghai project and had lunch almost every day and just really got along well. And so when I had this opportunity, Tim had just gotten let go from Disney after 33 some odd years. And I thought, wow, what a great opportunity to bring in Mr. Tomorrowland to work on a robot project. And so we formed a company and we rented a space and put an amazing
for
team
listeners,
together.
This is the guy that invented the future that never was and at Discoveryland in Paris and kind of did the whole steampunk, the timeless version of Tomorrowland.
Right, Discoveryland.
Doesn't age. And cracked
yes.
that nut that Disney executives for decades could not figure out.
Right, yeah. So unfortunately, this was my first endeavor sort of on my own, dealing with clients. And, you know, it's for those looking to work.
There's a creative aspect of the business, and then there's a meat grinder, cash flow, how much gas is in the tank, how much is oxygen is in the
And what's
tank,
sort of unique about me is my father is a CPA.
Oh, wow.
So I grew up with an accountant guiding me, yet I'm this creative guy. So in a sense, I straddle the line. I can do the business and do the creative.
You got a left and a right
brain. Yes, which creates battles sometimes. But in this case, I thought I had negotiated a great deal. We had a contract. We were working. It was like, again, the angels sang again, like when I started at Disney. And I felt like, wow, I've again found a calling. I love assembling teams. I love putting it together and managing it. It was just wonderful. And unfortunately, the client stopped paying.
Oh, dear.
And this was my one and only experience.
That never happens in this industry.
Well, I didn't know that. I did not know that. This was 8 or 9 years ago, and my first foray into running a company by myself, basically. And
assuming the best in people.
Yeah, it's like, we're going to get how much? I mean, this is amazing. Let's buy more computers.
We've
hire
put our
more
guts
people.
on the table, handed it over to you.
So it put us in a position where we didn't have any money in the bank, and yet the client still wanted deliverables, and I still had a team. And that was a very, very difficult time that sadly separated Mr. Delaney and I, which I still lament. And that led to the birth of Zeitgeist, because I had played with the name and done some work as that name prior to Delaney Harmon. But as soon as Delaney Harmon folded, I made Zeitgeist a legal corporation and just started peddling my wares under that name. I had never had a website before, so I looked into starting a website. And the other thing is, over that time and the years prior, it was primarily me. Sitting, right here at the table, doing all the concepts, doing the writing, maybe calling in a friend to do a sketch or something. But I really wanted to evolve to a company. And I had a friend named Becky Kiefer, who I had met when I was working at the Grove for Rick Caruso. That was another one of my roles, as sort of the in-house creative for Caruso Affiliated. And I had helped create a dance troupe for the holidays called the Top Hats. And Becky was one of the performers, and we actually didn't talk for many years after that. But thanks to Facebook, I had posted that I had tickets for a Coldplay concert, and Becky wanted to go. And I'm like, wow, okay. So we went and realized we had so much in common. We got along perfectly. And over time, I would share what I was working on, because she had a very unique perspective, being a mom and loving Disney, loving theme parks like I did. And so I would say, why don't we run over to the Disney store? And I'm trying to brainstorm how to create more interactivity here. I was working for another firm called Fresh Juice that did technology and retail. And I realized she had good ideas. She was really good at helping me get through things. She was great at organizing. So I started bringing her to industry events, and she sort of became the first other, Zeitgeist member.
Kind of a natural producer.
Yeah. And people liked her. And I started realizing, wow, if you don't want to work with me, because who does, you'll want to work with Becky. The guys want to date her and the women want to be her. and it was very true. And I definitely thank Becky so much for being there and working with me the last 5 or 6 years, because she's brought a whole new element to the company. And really, we become a good team where clients might want to talk to me, or they might want to, sit and quietly talk to her about me, or whatever it is.
Well, the scope and scale of what we've been able to collaborate on together just blows me away. So what's your elevator pitch, or the person sitting next to you on the airplane? So what do you do? What does Zeitgeist do?
Right. Well, what I think we are, because again, I've worked for pretty much everybody, both the brands and IPs and the owner operators and the design firms over now 31 years. I think what makes us unique is that we are a boutique firm, which means that we operate very efficiently, and our overhead is fairly low, and hopefully our fees are significantly less. And our team tends to be comprised of former senior level Disney Imagineers. I work a lot with Tom Morris, with Chris Runco, with Joe Lancicero, with a lot of people that I met at Disney and have been friends with for 10, 20, 30 years. Other people that I've met along the way at all these companies that there's
the
clicks.
Rolodex.
Well, but also there's an emotional or a friendship that's formed,
shared language,
where you think alike, like you and me. We just have so much in common that we want to work together. So I've got
Let's get in the sandbox again.
Come on. So I've got a lot of artists, master planners, writers, designers, money people, project managers, all kinds of people that we just have a shorthand now. We love working together, and we can do, I think, amazing stuff, as good as or better than some of the bigger firms, hopefully for less money.
Set up more
much
actually
faster.
like a Hollywood production studio where you scale up, scale down.
And I prefer that because of my experience with Delaney Harmon, where I was sitting there selling MacBooks at 9 p.m. on Craigslist, and I vowed, just like Scarlett O'Hara at the end of Gone with the Wind, she vows, and I vowed I'm never going to make this mistake again, and I have not. I operate much more efficiently, effectively, and I don't trust the clients all the time. I don't spend more than we've been sent, and knock on wood, we have not had that experience again. So I think clients can trust that with us, they're going to get amazing, world-class creativity and design for a really good price, quickly, and that we have the talent to take it all the way.
Yeah.
Well, I know that one of the challenges of our industry, at least it's true of Storyland Studios as well, is that so much of the work we do with recognizable brands and IPs, especially for the big guys, Disney, Universal, you're under these NDAs and you're not really allowed to share the work,
right.
Even whether it's built or unbuilt. It
right.
really is pretty limited what we're allowed to share on our portfolio. But are we allowed to talk about at least one of the Chinese theme parks we've been able to collaborate on, the BBC Earth Park, which
yes.
What a great brand.
Oh, that was amazing.
That series, documentary series, is probably one of the finest bits of documentary filmmaking, and kind of reminds me of almost the impact of the original Walt Disney.
I know, exactly.
True life nature.
Exactly. Yep.
But how long have you been on that journey with BBC?
We met BBC, I want to say end of 2016. And they had been approached by a Chinese developer to develop a park based on their BBC Earth series. And they had no idea how to do that or what that meant. And in this case, in this industry, things can go two ways. Either a developer takes it upon themselves to design a park using whoever they want, or in this case, the brand decided to do it, so that way it was official and approved. So we met them and we did a very quick few-week turnaround on a high concept, which I pretty much did myself, putting the whole deck together. And I think we may have had a brainstorming to get some ideation, but it was a really fast thing just so they could go to China with an idea. And apparently they loved it. The client loved it. They came back and said, we want to work with you guys. We want you to do this entire park, and we are going to do another park next door that at the time was an FEC based on their Top Gear IP, which is a car show that I didn't know at the time had been on TV for 37 years or whatnot. And it was funny because we'd be in meetings and they would ask me about it, and then they'd say, "You've never watched it, have you?" Yeah. And I'm like, "No,
sorry,
but I will." So yeah, we got 9 months, which is an incredible amount of time, maybe too much time, to noodle through an entire Earth theme park and a Top Gear theme park, and from scratch develop what is the entire guest experience from arrival to all of the lands to each of the attractions. I obviously watched a lot of Top Gear and really got the zeitgeist of that show, and was able to not only put the FEC together, but create so many attractions that the BBC felt were so true to the brand that they asked the developer to double the budget and double the land, because they felt that it would not truly be a Top Gear experience without these attractions, and which was wonderful to hear. So that project was finalized. The concept phase finished in May of 17, and we were told we were going to move into schematic design by July. That has not happened. We have heard that the Chinese government had elections last year in November, about a year ago, so that held things off. And then this past spring, the laws have changed that govern where resorts can be on the coastline. And also, apparently, they can't sell condominiums to people unless they live there. I think this is what it is, about 60% of the time, which changed the entire plan for the developer.
Yeah, the foundation that all
right, because there were 26 resorts right on the beach, and there were big condominiums that were probably going to be used for investment. So, those two parks unfortunately have been on hold, but we continue to be very good friends with BBC. Probably the best clients I've ever had. Just so great, so fun, so respectful of the creative process. And so supportive of the vision. And we really
There were
hope
definitely
that,
some amazingly big ideas there that just will have to come to fruition. So
well,
I can't
and
wait.
think about what bigger theme is there than the Earth.
Yeah.
You
that's
know?
right.
I mean, we had this
It's a
opportunity
big
to
blue
really,
planet.
yeah, and to create some messaging there, you know, about the environment, about what's happening in Africa with animals going extinct. China, unfortunately, is a big player in some of the issues with the environment, especially with decimating the animal population. And my feeling was, if we can save a rhino or an elephant or something through this park, then I feel good about it.
And
So
I mean, the idea of developing these amazingly immersive kind of biomes, of,
Yes.
kind of the blue planet, talking about the oceans, and the frozen planet,
Right.
talking about the poles, and the wild planet, and just to immerse people in that reality and then to really lead them towards wanting to be involved with transformation. And,
Right.
And again, the significance behind that, in addition to just the raw emotion and fun and immersiveness. Is
Right.
powerful.
And a lot of it was Marty Sklar's Mickey's 10 Commandments, where one of them is ounce of treatment, ton of treat. And that's something I live by, all of Marty's rules. And in this park, we did not want to get heavy into education.
Yeah.
Right. But we know that in China, unlike the United States, parents do not tend to keep their children out of school on a school day to go to a theme park. So a lot of our parks do have what we call an interpretive program, where there is an educational component. Maybe it's not obvious, but it can be tapped into through a mobile phone, or there's another level to the park. And so we want school groups to come. So one of the big things about the BBC parks, from the developer's point of view, was we want school groups to fly in from the mainland, because this is on Hainan Island, and spend the night at our resorts and have an educational experience as well. So ultimately, that will be a big part of the BBC Earth parks, whether it's indoors or outdoors. We're talking about potentially indoor versions as well.
Wow.
So yeah, that's a brand I love, and I can't wait to finally get into some real design on that.
Well, I know how I feel as one of the kind of extended consultants, getting to play in the sandbox with you. The park. I feel like you're the world's coolest club, doorman, curator of the crowd. I mean, the level of talent that you're able to bring to the party is just blows me away.
Yeah, that's
It really
something
is
I've
some
kind
great
of
company that we get to keep.
Thanks. Yeah, I've gotten known a little bit, and a lot of that again is just people I've met along the way, and I just sort of have this way of reading people, and certain people like working with me also because I do it the way we learned at WDI. Yeah. We do it the way the original Imagineers did it, and put the emphasis in the right places.
The WED way.
Yeah, seriously, the WED way, yeah. And it's a struggle a lot, because a lot of clients don't understand that, don't appreciate it. It's like we're building television sets, and they will just put more people on it. We still need it next Tuesday. And it's like, it's not going to be good by next Tuesday. And we always argue the good, fast, cheap, pick two. And it's a very true rule. Okay, I assume you want it to be good. I assume you don't want it to be $6 billion. So give us some time to do it right. Because throwing more money at it actually even doesn't make it better.
It doesn't.
Because you need to go through the process. And we do the best we can. And one of my hardest lessons, I would say, that I'm still teaching some of my Imagineer friends, is that sometimes you cannot be married to it, and you can't, as much as you want to put your heart and soul into it and create something that Walt would be proud of, the clients don't want that. A lot of times they just want what they want, and you just have to give them what they want. And sometimes I guess you do it for the paycheck, which is not something I ever thought I would say or do. Yeah. But it's kind of a reality of today. And we look for the projects that we can put our heart and soul into, and that it is appreciated and gets fulfilled. Yeah. Because the other challenge is today, a lot of clients don't see the value in keeping the design team involved through opening day. Right. And at Disney and Universal, here's one of my secret recipes is that the reason they succeed is because they say, Mel McGowan, you are in charge of this dark ride. You're going to come up with the idea. You're going to design it. I want you out in the field in
Waving
a hard
your
hat,
arms.
waving your arms, art directing it, programming it, writing it 1,000 times till it fulfills your vision. And you live and breathe that attraction for 3 to 5 years. And that's a big chunk of your life to dedicate to one thing. But that's how you get it right. Just
Well, it's
like when
a director of a film.
Yes, I was going to say, you don't let Steven Spielberg do pre-production and then say, okay,
You
we're
don't
going to
leave it
have
with the treatment or the script. Yeah.
Right. Then you have someone come in. It ain't going to be a Steven Spielberg movie.
Right. Yeah.
So there's this fallacy, especially in Asia, that if the Western team designs it, it's going to be Disney or Universal quality. And then they're surprised when it fails.
Yeah.
Well, hello.
And sometimes their design
expect?
is coming over, going on an adventure, taking some
Yeah.
Instagram pictures or Polaroids.
Well, but even if we do a whole
Design's
concept,
done. Yeah.
we can do a full concept pack. I'll give you an example. We were given the opportunity to design a pirate-themed indoor FEC in China. We did the full concept. We did the artwork, came up with the whole story. It was a sequence thing. They loved it. They asked us to do some schematic work. We did interiors. We did a lighting package. And, then we said, let us, finish this. Let us come out and art direct it and work with your vendors. And we don't have the money for that. So we're like, okay. And we did have some phone calls and they said, you have specified for the flooring to be, you might know the name, the little rubber balls that you kind of melt in place where it creates a squishy playground surface.
Yeah, right.
And I said, well, that's what it needs to be.
Safest fall zone.
Right, because this is slides, this is running around, kids potentially getting hurt. And we were looking to theme the ground so it went from a castle, like a
You gotta do a lot of color
fort.
patterns and stuff.
Yeah, fort to a beach that gave way to the sea. So you wanted that beautiful gradient from the sand to the blue ocean. Then we went under the sea. So that was a perfect vehicle for that. So when Becky and I finally went to Shanghai to see it open, they had done a great job. It looked a lot like what we had conceived, except they used tile. And we're like, besides the echo chamber
That's
they've
gonna
created,
hurt.
it's going to hurt.
It's
Yeah.
gonna hurt.
So it was beautiful though. They used really
man.
small tiles and they got the gradients. It looked great, but it created an echo chamber and it was, as hard as stone. And that's the kind of thing where one little decision, had somebody been there to do that, it would have been more successful and kids wouldn't have gotten hurt. And, so.
I know for us that's been it's been a fundamental strategic game changer. The willingness to, number one, make sure that prospective clients are willing to invest in relationship on the front end,
Right?
And then it's rough sometimes, but the ability on our end to be willing to say no if
Right.
they're not willing or if it's not the right fit, because the dividends of being able to be in there from blue sky to building and for
Right.
the journey, it is.
Hold up there, Skip. We'll be back with the rest of our interview in just a moment. But first, these words. Did you know that 1 in every 3 websites is built on WordPress? WordPress sites are super versatile. In fact, if your website is not on WordPress, you're losing out. You need the WordPress experts at My Studio Space LLC to help you out. Their friendly staff can build your new website, give your old site a facelift, or they can help you make those stubborn little changes that you simply don't have time for. My Studio Space will help you claim your domain, your custom email, and set up your entire site. Visit them on the web at mystudiospace.com or call 407-701-7577 to get started. And here's an outrageous special offer for you, our podcast listeners. Switch your hosting from GoDaddy to My Studio Space, and they'll pay you $100 cash. Just mention Themed Attraction when you call to redeem your offer. That's mystudiospace.com.
Well, what a global journey, and again, when I follow your Instagram shots and all the global tours, I know that one of the inspirations for a park we're working on right now is one that we've also been able to share, Efteling.
Oh,
I've got to do a little, because you're one of my few designer buddies that has actually shared that experience.
I love Efteling.
We haven't talked about that yet on the podcast, but can you share a little bit about what you love about Efteling and why it's a little bit unique? I'm assuming most of our listeners have never even heard of the place.
Yeah, Efteling.
But how is it different from Disney Universal corporate parks?
Yeah, Efteling is a park located in the Netherlands, not far from Amsterdam. That was really the vision of one designer who's no longer with us. But when I was working for Warner Brothers, I was based in Germany for a while. And every weekend it was, let's go to Belgium, let's go to Amsterdam, let's go to Berlin, let's go to Paris. Yeah. So I had the chance to go to Efteling. And again, Efteling is emotional. And again, this is what's missing in a lot of theme parks today and attractions is you went in and the entrance was just something from a storybook that you'd never seen realized in architecture. Yeah. And you walk through this park and it just broke so many rules in terms of what we find even decent. I mean, there's giant giant donkeys that shoot coins out of their butts. Yeah, right. And just things that we'd never see in America.
Garbage cans that are children's mouths and you're throwing garbage away.
Stuff that that every 5-year-old boy would love.
Yeah, it was like, wow, I've never seen the rules broken like this. I've never seen such organic.
The trash cans are named Big Mouth. It's just a caricature of a guy you put the trash in and he thanks you.
Yeah, and then I found myself just walking through these forests, and Europe is magical to begin with, but you're walking through these forests with massive trees that obviously had been there hundreds of years potentially, with the sun rays kind of coming through, and just the nature was striking. And then there's a show building you come across, and it looks like it's an Arabian Aladdin thing or something. You're going, wow, this is weird. There's no hue things. I'm not on concrete. It might have even been like decomposed granite or something we were walking across. But the magic, it was just this discovery trail where you'd
these
fall
wonderful
upon,
walk through dark rides.
Yeah, just things you'd walk through. And then the Dream World attraction had opened. And Dreamflight, or it's called Dreamvelt or Droomvelt in Dutch. But again, that ride blew my mind. It's like I'm in this beautiful fairy forest and it's all just about the emotion and the music and the visuals, and you don't realize that you're ascending on this suspended vehicle, and all of a sudden you reach the apex and you're almost in a cylinder, and it begins to spin around the perimeter of this cylindrical building, and you race back into the unload, and you're like, that was amazing.
It's like Peter Pan's flight turned to 11.
But there was that was probably one of the first time also there was no IP. Right. Because again, I grew up here with Disney, Universal. I was working on a Warner Brothers
it's its own
park.
original IP. Right?
Yeah. So it was not based on movies or TV shows, yet it was amazing. Right. So that showed me that you can have original content that is not film-based, that can be awesome. And when you thought about it, because I have this argument a lot, Jonathan Casson, I'm thinking about you, whether IP or original is better.
I was just going to ask you that.
And I've spent so much of my career doing IP, but when you think about it, the best and most lasting Disney attractions are Pirates of the Caribbean, Haunted Mansion, Jungle Cruise, Matterhorn, Space Mountain, Big Thunder, and it goes on and on. None of these were based on a movie. Yeah. Pirates became a movie. Yeah. Haunted Mansion became a bad movie.
Jungle Cruise
is going to be a movie. I hope that's good. But again, these were not based on anything because they're more human stories or put you in a magical time and place and transport you physically and emotionally. And that's what a theme park attraction is supposed to do. Yeah. So just cramming it's called Angry Birds into an FEC or
a bunch of book report rides.
Yeah, I don't get that. You know, I argue a lot with Asian clients. They say, we need IP. And I say, you don't need IP. It's going to cost you more. It's going to be a nightmare dealing with the IP. Is that the right color? Would that character really say that? You're going to pay out huge money to them. And why do you need that? What if you did something based on magic or space or shrinking? Or there's so many great human stories to tell that you can tweak or make it like something, but you don't need a movie or TV show to be successful.
And that park really, I mean, maybe, especially for the jaded theme park visitor that's won the Disney bingo and been to every Disney park in the world and all these corporate parks, to literally just have that childlike winsome experience
Yes.
of not knowing what's around the next corner.
Yes.
Having no idea what you're going to walk into every time
Right.
you step into
Yeah,
it.
it
blew me away when I found out that park is actually a Roman Catholic owned
that's right.
nature nonprofit park.
Really?
To be
Wow.
able to do this level of magic and,
Wow.
and excellence. And
Well, and the
it's
other
just
revelation,
amazing.
I think, Mel, is that their budgets don't even touch the kind of
Right.
budgets that
Right.
we've worked with at Disney and Universal, and yet they've achieved brilliance.
Yes.
And that also showed me that, and one of my theories at Zeitgeist too, is that it doesn't cost more to build a great idea. We can figure out a way to be clever about it and give you a similar or the same emotional experience, maybe even physical experience, without spending $500 million on a land or an attraction.
Yeah. I think that goes back to also that original Imagineering idea that we're just guys trying to figure out the problem and solve it. And that means late nights, that means figuring out, that means creating new technology. It means all this this stuff that I can't tell you, I can't write down in the book all the things that we're going to do throughout this project.
Right.
But when we get to the end,
Yeah.
we're pretty smart people.
Right.
We're going to figure this out.
Well, one of the best examples of that is the Pirates of the Caribbean ride at Disneyland, where they knew where it wanted to go, but there was a train track there. And again, through late nights and hard work, they figured, well, what if we went under the train track and we put the show building in the back? That way we don't have to pay to theme it. Yeah. We can put a little facade out front, and we don't have to take out the train. And so Pirates got a drop just because of the train track.
Yep.
Universal only got the King Kong and ultimately the Fast and Furious immersion tunnels because the original King Kong burned down.
Oh, that's right.
So I laugh now when clients come and they say, "Can you make an immersion tunnel?" It's like, well, an immersion tunnel was created out of necessity because King Kong burned down. They had a different location and they wanted to save money, potentially not build a giant ape. And someone said, let's try it in 3D. Yeah. And suddenly this becomes a new type of attraction.
Yeah.
It's like the roller coaster, but it was out of necessity.
It's an evolution. It goes from one thing to the next because of the necessity.
Right. So, yeah, I love that. And again, that's not something that's understood or appreciated by most developers and clients today. Yeah. It's just, here's what I want, design it. So, but that's how some of the best things come about through that.
So I'm curious too about the infill of the theme parks into the rest of the world. A lot of your projects are in Asia and other places. I mean, what's the challenge? What's the difference? What do you face when you're being called upon by a client? You mentioned a few things, kind of like, hey, they just think they need a Disney Imagineer, but what more is this world of theme parks going to move towards as these multiply into all these places? I mean, where are we going?
Different questions.
Yeah, that's true.
Which one do you? I can do both.
Let's start with the.
So as far as around the world, I think. Obviously, books are one format or medium, movies are another, themed entertainment is another. And now that a lot of these countries have money to spend on leisure experiences, theme parks are sort of the natural evolution. And we're starting to see them obviously in China and India, Russia. I was just called this week about doing a heavily themed experiential restaurant in Pakistan, where I told them I probably won't be able to go work on site, but I'm excited that countries like that are looking to bring this kind of experience there. And I think it's great because we all live in a world now where we're staring at our screens, unfortunately, and at least here, the politics are overwhelming and we want an escape. And while the screen was a really cool thing 10 years ago, now it's become so ubiquitous that when you can actually put it down and be in real reality versus virtual reality, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is.
And especially for kids who play video games and they go through all these worlds.
Well, especially as parents, trying to keep that connection. That
Turn your phone
kids,
off and stand in Diagon Alley, and it's amazing. This is real virtual reality, right? Yeah. And again, when I walked into Diagon Alley, I almost cried because it's like, they did it right. It's emotional. And there I've been transported. It's totally immersive. So I think that kind of feeling, as more and more people are traveling and seeing what America has to offer in Europe, they want to bring that home. And the guy in Pakistan actually lived for 6 years in Florida and, saw America, saw a lot of these things and wants to bring that kind of thing to his people.
Yeah, that's the thing I love about it is there's this sort of, hey, we're advancing. Our societies are advancing. We should have these, this place like Saudi Arabia didn't have movie theaters until this year.
Right.
And so they're suddenly opening their eyes to, hey, we should be offering this leisure to our people and making it available, and people are loving it. They're going out in droves. And so theme parks get to be that next
So I think it's going to keep growing. There are a lot of countries that have nothing. A lot can't afford the same level that we normally do. But again, a good idea doesn't have to cost more. Yeah. We can do something fun and immersive, for them at whatever they can afford. Yeah. So that's a fun challenge. And to answer the second question, if you ask me where I think things are going, I, for years, have been saying things are going more towards a Westworld scenario where we want to be fully immersed, get into cosplay, get into role-playing, and be fully immersed overnight. Yeah. And that being a key thing. And when Disney announced the Star Wars hotel, I felt a little validated because I've been pitching this to hotel chains even for a while, saying, that hotel you have in Jamaica that's sort of 60s looking, let's turn it into a pirate village. Yeah. Let's put pirate ships there. Let's make it a village. You go there, you wear pirate costumes. There's real rum bars. There's girls. There's, we do sword fighting stunt shows. You can go sail on the pirate ships. There's buried treasure. There's, you stay there for a week and you have a fully immersive experience as a pirate. Yeah. And you can be a good pirate. You could be a bad pirate. And they're like, well, no. People just come to our hotels because they want that brand experience. Want to sit on the beach. And I just want to slap them on the face and say, no, in 10 years, you're going to be eating those words because things are going towards immersive overnight experiences. Yeah. And I truly feel that as much as I love the Harry Potter lands that Universal did, it should have been. Yeah. No, they didn't blow it. It's great. The ability to spend the night. Well, it's now too late to build a Hogwarts hotel. Right. Because Hogwarts is sitting in Islands of Adventure. Right. You can't have two. And it should have been, I park my car, I get on the Hogwarts Express, I go to a almost full-size Hogwarts, I check into a room, I wear a robe, I get the sorting hat and choose my thing, I take classes, I eat in the dining room, mysteries happen and special effects and paintings talk and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, there's things you can't do, but people would have paid $1,000 a night or more for that. So I'm very excited where Disney's going, realizing that this is the next step in this process. And I'm hopeful that companies that own existing resorts will take a chance. Mm-hmm. If they've already got the resort somewhere, the facility, change it up, theme it up, see how it goes. I have a feeling if I could stay at Terra from Gone with the Wind in Louisiana, or I could stay in a pirate village, or even in Africa, give me something really themed. And I did just come back from Costa Rica. And there's a gentleman who lives in Florida. Pura Vida. I forgot his name, but he has built a hotel called the Springs and another one called the Peace Lodge. And while there's no story necessarily, these are what I'm talking about. The architecture you'd love. It's striking and it goes with Costa Rica, and he's got live animals everywhere and tons of pools with waterfalls and water slides and lighting and great food. And I mean, we went to both of these resorts for 3 or 4 nights and we never left because you don't want to leave. No. And how cooler would it have been if it was a little more immersive and we learned about the people of Costa Rica or the mythologies of Costa Rica. It was missing sort of that Alani touch to it. But he's on the right track, and I left my card and said, please call me, I want to work with you. And I never heard from him.
Which side of the country is that on?
It's in the center. It's in the mountains. Both of them are, if you flew into San Jose. The Springs Peace Lodge is about 45 minutes or an hour and a half north up into the mountains, and then the Springs is a little farther. Oh, wow. But real waterfalls and paths and horseback riding, and I mean
he's adapting the natural place to give it its own
Right.
his own brand on the
Right. And in a way that appeals to the modern audience, where I don't really want to sleep in an air-conditioned room with screens and mosquitoes. I had 75 mosquito bites my second night in Costa Rica. So
That's part of the game. That's a gamify by counting your mosquito bites.
But the fact that I could stay in this immersive, beautiful place, yet have a room, as themed as it was, with air conditioning, fully closed from bugs. I mean, we had a waterfall in our room. It had 2 hot tubs. It had full plants around the waterfall shower.
Yeah.
It was massive, and it's not cheap. But again, I think people who work at Disney have told me that, I forgot what the saying is, but they can't build a hotel room that's too expensive. People, I guess they built some of those Fiji style rooms on the
bungalows,
and they're like sold out every night, and they're outrageously priced.
Yeah.
But people have money. People are going to pay it.
Yeah. They want that experience.
There's never enough room at the top. Something like that. That you can always have a better wine or a more expensive iPhone or whatever it is, and
It'll
people
sell.
are paying $1,000 for an iPhone now. They used to be $99.
People pay for memories and for experiences.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
amazing.
So, and I think for our generation, and in our brochure, there's a quote that 68 or 78% of millennials or younger people today would choose an experience over a material thing. And I'm finding that right now. It's almost November. It's time to go holiday shopping for my kids. And I'm thinking, they have so many toys they don't play with. They mostly like to stare at their screens and play games, but they would much prefer to go on a trip. I took them skiing last year. They love that. I'd much rather put the money into bonding time and take them places where they have an experience and learn something than just giving them a action figure or a car. It just gets thrown in the back of the closet and we never see it again.
Yeah, that's right.
So I really feel that, our generation doesn't. I have a lot of stuff on my shelves because I inherited it, but younger people today, I don't think, are buying stuff to put on shelves.
That's
It's,
right.
do you need wedding china anymore? I don't know anyone who uses. I've never used wedding china in my life, and I have a whole bunch down there. So I just don't. I think the world is changing, and experiences, and especially these overnight immersive opportunities to be somebody and play a role, is where it's at. And that's the first developer who understands that and actually spends the billions of dollars required to create basically a West world with another theme, I think is going to start a new trend and be very successful.
Yeah.
Well, Ryan, thanks so much for opening your amazing home. I'm still blown away by the hand-hewn rafters, and I mean, just this 1920s Hollywood land, old LA kind of vibe here, and just what a great spirit of just fun and creativity, and we've shared some great times at Disneyland. I think we're going to have to do a follow-up. This has been a little taste test of just the journey through space and time, even in prognosticating the future of themed entertainment. But it'd be fun to maybe even get together either at our studio or in the parks and kind of continue the conversation.
Yeah,
so,
that would be really fun.
Yeah, thanks so much for
you're welcome.
all the fun over the years and over the last few minutes.
Yeah, and if I were to offer some advice to your listeners, I would say what we used to say in Imagineering, and I used to write the responses to a lot of letters from people that would write in saying, "How do I become an Imagineer?" And what
you
we
probably wrote my response.
one of my best friends, John Pucci, I met him because he wrote me a fan letter from Disney Magazine, and he lived in Orlando and wanted to be an Imagineer.
Yeah.
And I was heading out there, and I thought, let's have dinner. And he ended up being in my wedding, and I just saw him 3 nights ago. I mean, it's been 25 years, and we're still good friends. Awesome. So, I think what everybody needs to do is sort of, you are born with some talent or interest, and mine, weird as it was writing. I remember sitting as a kid watching my friends playing kickball on the street, yet preferring to sit inside and write stories and draw pictures. That then I created a book club and I sold them to my grandparents. So I was an entrepreneur even then. But find what you're good at and what you love, and just stick with it, develop that talent, fulfill it, find ways to do it professionally and to get paid for what you love. And if themed entertainment is something you desire, are you more of an engineer? Are you an architect? Are you an artist? Are you a designer? Are you a writer? There's so many dozens of disciplines that all play a major role in creating what we do. and just finding opportunities and intern. One of my biggest things is find someone to intern. Find
interning at the right places can be so much even more important than which school you went to.
Yeah, and find a mentor too. I mean, people like me, I love helping people. There's quite a few people in this industry who have become big, well-known talents who I gave them their first jobs. Gwendolyn Ballantyne is a neighbor of mine and a good friend, and she approached me at Warner Brothers in '94 as a student at CalArts and wanted to work in theme parks, and I hired her, and now she's one of the best artists and art directors in the industry. So I love giving opportunities, and so do other people. So you just got to pursue it, and especially for our industry, getting involved in the next gen at the TEA, Themed Entertainment Association, and coming to the mixers, meeting people, sharing your interests and your portfolio. All that is important. Even working in a park. If you have one in your own city, will give you the operations experience you need. So many people I know started as balloon salesmen, or Tom Morris. Tony Baxter started selling ice cream, I think, on Main Street. Yeah. And this gives you an insight that you wouldn't have. So you have these opportunities, take advantage of them, and the sky's the limit. Just follow your dreams.
Follow your dreams. Oh, we should tune up the music right there.
Don't stop believing.
There you go. Yeah, thank you so much for this time. Really exciting to hear from you, and we definitely want to have you on again this week.
That'd be great.
Be awesome. Tell us where people can find you, follow you. What's the best way?
Our website is zeitgeist-usa.com. And my email's on there. It's just Ryan@zeitgeist-usa.com. And hopefully we'll have some exciting things to announce in the months ahead.
Awesome.
So
can't wait.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
That was great. Ryan is a wealth of knowledge and experience. It's great to hear somebody who started from the very, very beginning, very bottom, youngest Imagineer, moving on to creating his own company and creating amazing worlds with some of the greats in the industry right now. Very excited to see that his vision for the future is a lot like some of the visions for the future we've had. I mean, even back to our own childhood, as we've talked about, thinking about how Hollywood Studios right now is going to build a Star Wars hotel that goes right into the park, and you're going to be able to land on that planet and stay there overnight. What do you think? I mean, is this what is going to resonate with people, Mel?
Well, like I said, it's definitely part of my lifelong passion, and letting people extend just that 8-hour immersive experience into at least a 24-hour experience. Again, spend the night in Disneyland, spend the night in the Grand Californian, and in the midst of a California adventure, spend the night in Star Wars land. But to me, the more that technology allows us to be virtual and virtually immersed in digital realities, I think that actually makes us hungrier to be able to get out and spend more time and spend the night and spend several nights in visceral, physical, multi-sensory environments that speaks to all 5 of the senses as opposed to primarily visually. So holodeck, here we go.
Well, I'm got my Jedi outfit ready. I'm gonna dive right in myself, I'm sure. Well, we better turn this boat around and head home. Until next time, thanks a lot, Mel. The Themed Attraction podcast is hosted by Freddy Martin and Mel McGowan. Feel free to leave us a review on iTunes Podcasts and share the show with your friends. Our guest was president of Zeitgeist Design and Production, Ryan Harmon. Check out their work at zeitgeist-usa.com. You can also follow Zeitgeist around the world at zeitgeist_USA on Twitter. Get access to more stories and interviews at themedattraction.com, the world's most comprehensive site on theme park and themed entertainment design. Connect with Mel by email via mel@storylandstudios.com or follow him on Twitter at Mel McGowan and Instagram at Visioneer. You can find me at freddymartin.net and follow my adventures at Skipper Freddy on Instagram and Twitter. Our theme music was composed by Rob Watson. Other music provided by The Lost Dogs. This episode was designed and produced by the one and only Dr. Barry Hill. Find him at barryrhill.com. You know, Mel, Barry once told me his mother-in-law is a cannibal. He's pretty sure she doesn't like him, though, because every time he goes over to her house for dinner, she gives him the cold shoulder. Thanks for listening, folks.